Hey there, everyone. Amanda Wright here on the new first podcast for Coffee and Grace with Amanda. And we have our very first guest on today. This is Mrs. Dawn Battaglia. She is a certified early childhood educator and a certified special education educator with more than 25 years experience. And let me tell you, this lady has been absolutely amazing with my children. She has been tutoring my children for a little while now. And my older son was actually struggling to read. He didn't like reading. He was missing some really key things in his reading, which made it a struggle for him. So he was not enjoying reading. And he was reading, but like I said, he was struggling with it. And so Dawn actually helped him. He's becoming, a reader that actually enjoys reading now. And I'm really proud of all of the progress that he's made, because of Dawn working with him so closely. And my 5-year-old is reading now with no problem. He was reading to me last night. It was so cute. He's really coming a long way too. And so Dawn, I just owe you so big for that. You've done such an amazing job with my boys. So welcome today. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here, taking the time out and meet with me. And I love working with your boys, and thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, tell us your story. We want to hear all about it. How did you start Sunrise Reading tutoring service?
Well, I always had a passion for teaching. I am one of 8 children, and my mom went back to school after her eighth baby to be a nurse. And with that, I had to care for my younger siblings and help out. And so, but I enjoyed it. I always loved working with children, helping them, teaching them. So I naturally wanted to go into teaching. With that, I got a bachelor's in science in early childhood education, loved teaching children with special needs, and then continued to do graduate studies in that. And I got certified in that area as well. And I loved my career. I loved what I did. I loved helping children. But as life moves on, I got married and I had my first baby, which was really exciting. And after I had my first baby, I realized when he got to be about 3 years old, he had a delay in speech and the expressive language. And I knew that it was time to get help. So, being that I had worked in a collaborative model before with other therapists, such as speech, occupational therapy, and work with children with special needs, I figured I'll just hire a speech therapist in the district, have them come and get them started early. Well, with that, the lessons started pretty good, and then they went on a decline. My son wasn't really motivated. She wasn't engaging him. So, with that, she comes to me one day and she's like, I have some news for you. And it's like, well, what is it? She said, your son has apraxia. And I'm like, what? You know what? And I heard of apraxia, wasn't sure what it was, but I knew it was a heavy diagnosis. And for those of you who are not familiar with what apraxia is, it's a neurological condition, basically when, in the language center, there's like a short circuit that goes to the expressive language. And you can get therapy for it, but it would be something that a child would have for life. So, with that being said, I investigated a little bit and I realized quickly my son does not have apraxia. So, with that being said, I knew that speech therapist was from the district that I was going to send him to school, and I realized I am not sending him to school in that district. So then I went to look at a private school, and it was a Catholic school. I'm not Catholic, but I heard it just had it had a great reputation. It was supposed to be a really good school. I went to observe the school, and it went from kindergarten to eighth grade. So basically, you have children that are just out of diapers to boys that have beards, all in the same building, which I didn't like that. And then I went to observe the gym class, and none of the kids were having fun. It was just very militant. And I was like, no, this is not the right fit for my son. So then I went to another school. It had a really great curriculum, but the building wasn't kept up well. And I was like, I don't want him spending all day in a building that's not well maintained. And then I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, I have all this experience in teaching children that are typical to severe disabilities. I'm going to teach them myself. I'm going to get my hands on the best materials and I'm going to teach them how to read and do it myself. And so with that, I just, had this great passion of helping teaching other children. I ended up going from, I didn't even believe in homeschooling to homeschooling my son. I ended up having 4 more children and I have a younger son who's only 4, but I have taught four of my children how to read, and of course, countless others I've helped, through that time. So, what is, and I'm sorry to kind of go about, I didn't mean to make it long-winded, but I want to share with people why I'm here and why I'm passionate about it because I was that parent that was frustrated. I was that parent that got that heavy diagnosis, and I know there's hope. And I want to give parents too, hey, there's hope. And so, but with that, yes, I'm at the stage where I have older children, and now I have the ability where I'm able to give, I feel like my gifts and services and help others because the dynamic of my family now where I don't have all just little children that I'm able to maintain the household. I still homeschool my children, but yet I can reach other families and help them. And that's my passion is to help as many families and children as possible so their children can have the best life and reach their full academic potential.
That is absolutely beautiful. I love hearing your story. Every time I
Uh-huh.
hear it, it just makes me so happy that came from a place of being so frustrated with your own situation and wanting to help your son so much. And you've just blossomed into this
Yeah.
beautiful, you know, it's just beautiful how far that you've come to do this. And I'm so grateful, like I said, to have you in our life. We affectionately call you Mrs. B, as you know, for a reason. And we couldn't do this without you. Like I really feel like you are a big part of, you know, my family's happiness right now because I was
Oh,
struggling to do it as a mom. I was really struggling to homeschool my kids, and it showed, unfortunately, and my weaknesses with it. And so now I feel like we are smooth sailing right now with your help,
oh.
and it's been a wonderful experience, so thank you. And I'm so glad that you are passionate to help other families. And there is definitely hope, like you said, definitely hope. So have you noticed a common theme or pattern among students who struggle with reading?
I have. I find that, and now when I say child's not reading, many times it's not that they can't read at all. They can read some words, but I'm realizing that there's gaps. And so they didn't get that strong phonetic base in their education. Now, I'm not saying they weren't exposed to it. I don't know their whole background, but I just see them at the point where they are. And a lot of times I'm finding that gap is the phonetic gap, is not knowing all the letters, the sounds, how they come together, and building that word. And there's a lot to it. And I just want to share with you too, like teaching a child to read, it is, I believe it's one of the hardest subjects to do because there's so much involved in it and it takes so much patience and it's very repetitive. So, and I'm so happy that I can be there to step in and help families like yours you know, to give the child what they need because as adults, we don't really remember how we learned how to read. We know we can do it,
Right.
right? And so most parents think, hey, my child's going to go from, cooing to talking and from crawling to walking, and then naturally they're just going to go to reading. But reading's a skill that has to be taught, and it can be challenging. But getting back to your question, I noticed there's a very heavy, there's a big deficit in that, that having that strong phonetic foundation. And
Right.
also, it depends on the child too. So, some children develop at different ages, different stages. So, maybe they got exposed to it, but they weren't able to process it. Or maybe the delivery of it was too quick. So there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot that goes into it. So, when I look at a child, I teach to that child, which is the beauty of tutoring, because I teach at their level, I meet them where they're at, and I know how they learn and then I'm able to deliver that to them. Yes.
That is so beautiful. Yeah, because I'm sure you've noticed both of my boys learn very different. And
Yes.
so it's good that you can pick up on that. And I love how you keep them engaged the whole time and they have fun with you. I mean, at one point, Joshua was like, I want more time with Mrs. B. He just felt like he wanted to be with you more, and learn more. He was so excited. Little Joshua is such a good student.
Oh,
He's really
yeah.
excited about it. But I know he has his moments now because you are like really pushing him to grow. So he
Hmm.
does sometimes, want not want to do it, but you're really good about encouraging him. You're like, come back to me. I hear you with him, and he'll come back and he'll get focused again. And so
Yeah.
you're really skilled. You're really very good at this. Whereas I'm just like, okay, we're putting it away for the day. We're all done. Like, go away.
Uh, But,
So I'm glad that you can refocus and actually help them through, what they need. It's amazing what you do.
oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And as a parent, it's harder to teach your own children, so it's always nice to have somebody that can step in and do it because there's a big emotional aspect as a mom to a child. So, yeah.
I think part of it too is like we know what our child is capable of, and like we
Mhm.
expect probably more than what you expect.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe our expectations are off base in certain areas, whereas you can pick up on and see that. But on the flip side of it, we as parents know, okay, you should be doing a little bit more at this point, and so I think we kind of get irritated a little bit easier, than someone outside of the family because we can see right through this nonsense.
Sure.
So that's kind of where I struggled with it. And at some points I would be like, okay, we're just going to put this away,
Hmm.
for today. Cause it just was frustrating. And I didn't want it to get to a point where it's like my boys hated learning. I didn't want it to get
Right.
to that point. So it's like, okay, we're going to do something totally different. We're going to change curriculums. We're going to, do
Yeah.
this. So I was so thankful to add you to the mix in our toolbox of our education. It's like I said, it's made a huge difference, and I'm really, really super thankful. So, what are some early signs that you have seen that a child is struggling to read?
I think the number one sign would be they don't want to read. They're not interested in books. They don't want to look at the books, or they start reading, they're skipping words. Their fluency is very off. It's choppy. And they're struggling just to sound out some of the words. But the number one thing, because all that kind of goes together where the child, they don't want to read. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's uncomfortable for them, or they might feel embarrassed, because yeah. Um, when should a parent seek outside help or an evaluation?
Parents have great intuition. There's experts, doctors, teachers. I always say to parent, you know your child best. If you intuitively know that you feel something's not right, do it now. Because when a child's young, all that neurology, all in their neurology, all this wiring is happening. And so the earlier you get help, the easier it is for them to make these new connections, reinforce these connections when it comes to reading. So the best advice I would say, if you feel at all that your child needs help, don't wait on it. Do it immediately. And what ends up happening, the parents that wait, and sometimes they're told by the teacher, hey, your child's fine. They just need a little more time to catch up. It's okay. They'll get there. Well, time moves on, and what happens by the time the child gets to third or fourth grade, it's no longer just reading and decoding words. Now it's heavy comprehension. That's going to be reflected in the early sciences and history. School's a big struggle. That child's going to
Right.
shut down. And
Yeah.
so, not to say there's always help, but if you get it earlier, then they don't have to go through that process of when they're in fourth grade. Then the teacher's noticing, wait, they're not doing good on their reading. They're not doing good in social studies or science. And that's when it can be picked up at that time. But again, it's better off earlier. And that would be my best advice. And as a parent, go with your gut. If you feel something's off and the teacher's saying it's okay, I would say look for help, get an assessment done.
That's great advice. I love that. So, what does your reading assessment include?
Yeah, so my reading assessment includes phonetics, which is the ability to hear and manipulate words, phonics, which is the understanding of the relation between letters and sounds, fluency, which is the ability to read and articulate smoothly, vocabulary, which is the ability to understand words and their meaning, and of course, comprehension, which is the ability to understand the meaning of the passage of what they're reading. Now, just to say this, with my assessment, I don't always get to all the way to that fluency, vocabulary, comprehension. Sometimes it has to end earlier because if they're struggling with just that decoding part, then that's where I'll end it. And
Right.
then what I'll do if I want to have a little snapshot of comprehension, I will read a passage verbally to them, and that will pick up whether how well they comprehend. Because the thing is, when a child is reading and they're struggling to decode, well, if they're working that hard to decode a word, how are they going to be able to comprehend it? So
Right.
that's not going to be a good assessment of what they're able to understand. I just like to share that so people have an understanding because sometimes parents will come to me saying, my child's struggling to read, it's hard for them to decode, their comprehension's poor. It's like, well, if they're struggling that much just to decode and say a word, of course they're not gonna be able to comprehend it because they're just working so much just saying sound of that word.
Right. Right.
So yes, that's what all that encompasses. Now, I want to share this because it sounds pretty heavy, right? That evaluation. Some children that come to me have been through a lot of evaluations through school. That's the last thing they want to do because they felt kind of beaten up already. My approach to it, I always share and I tell that child, I'm here to help you. And so I'm here to collect information. I'm going to ask you questions, not because I'm trying to give you a grade. You're not going to have a grade at the end of this. I just want to know, where do I go? Where do I begin to help you? And when I notice a child is at a part of that assessment where they can't get further, they're shutting down, I'm not going to continue on. I'm not here to
Right.
frustrate the child. I'm here to help them. So I just like to share that because I don't want a parent to feel they're going to go through this heavy assessment. And they've already been through all these assessments, those children that have been out there that have had these struggles. I try to make it very light to the point and encourage the child even through that process. And during the assessment, I also build rapport. So I like to play a game. I like to learn about them. And I ask the child for their permission. Is it okay if I ask you some of these questions? I want to learn about you. Because, let's face it, a child that you build rapport and that trusts you, likes you, they're going to work better, especially in a
Hmm.
subject they're struggling in. If
Right.
a child's struggling to read, that's the last thing they want to do is have have someone that says, "Hey, I'm going to get you reading." So also my assessment includes also building that rapport, and I do learn a lot from it because I learn the child's behavior. I learn where their deficits are, and I put a really a very individualized plan together for them.
Yes. And I just want to say both of my boys have went through the evaluation. It was not as scary as Don kind of makes it seem in a way. So I was actually probably more scared about the evaluation than my boys were, to be honest. Like they were like, oh, we get to be in this cool meeting. So my boys did really good through it, and Don was able to pick up and see exactly where she needed to start with them. And it's good to know where they're at. So that way, we can know where we need to work so we can move forward. And it's a really helpful tool to have that assessment done. And like I said, it probably sounds more scary than it is. And I don't think my boys were scared at all. I think I was the one that was scared because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna see everything.
It's funny you bring that up because sometimes I do find with parents, they feel a little self-conscious because they'll sit by the child to be like, go ahead, take your time. You know this word, and it's not, I'm not grading a parent. I just want to see where the child is. But the
Right.
parent
Right.
almost feels like, hey, this is my grade too. Where did I fall short at? Nothing. And just so you
Totally.
know, and everybody knows, I am not here to give a parent a grade. I'm here to help a parent and take that burden. And I know how reading can be, like I said, it's one of the hardest subjects to teach a child. So I'm here to take that burden from them to step in and give the child the skills they need. I'm not here to evaluate the parent,
Right.
and I get it.
We felt at ease right away. Like as
Oh,
soon as,
good.
even though I say that, you pretty quickly took that fear away. Like it just was initially the assessment before we actually got into it.
Yeah.
But you put both of our minds at ease right away. And I was just so relieved. Like I was so relieved with Mrs. B that I was bawling my eyes out on our first call because I was just like, I'm so thankful. She's like, oh boy.
No, no, I
So it was
I
such a
get it.
big blessing. Yeah, so it can really help, if your family is struggling like ours was, with this. Dawn has been such a blessing, such a blessing.
Thank you.
So typically, how long can a student expect to start seeing some progress?
Sure. I'm going to go back to the assessment. I'm going to also address that question you're
Oh,
saying,
yes.
just because I forgot to mention something else. So, with the assessment, just so the parents are aware, once I give the assessment, I'll schedule a time to talk to the parent about the assessment. I don't talk to them immediately after because I do like to process where the child's at and also behavior and how I engage with, and then put a plan together. So that takes me a little time. So I just wanted to throw that in there that I don't give an immediate answer right away to after the assessment. And then I'm sorry, going back to your last question, you asked me about how long it takes, right, for a child to see
To
progress.
see the progress. Uh-huh.
I would say now just to see like progress or feel more confident, I would say probably in our first week of tutoring, a child's going to feel better. But
Mhm.
to see a lot of progress, I give it 6 weeks. And there's every child I've worked with so far, there's been a huge, significant amount of progress within 6 weeks. I've even had children that went from not being able to read at all, being able to read short vowel, long vowel words at the end of 6 weeks. And some of those
Mhm.
children began not even knowing vowel sounds or some of their letter sounds.
Exactly.
Now, just like weight loss, because you're a coach, so I'm going to address, and Amanda's an amazing coach. I'm using her services right now for my weight loss journey. So, um, it makes me think of weight loss because you help a lot of women on their journey to lose weight and get fit. And like, you can't say, hey, you're going to lose this amount of, weight in a week or in 6 weeks. So, there's a lot of, I can't say every child's going to go from that to that in 6 weeks, but there will definitely be progress. And the way I teach, I push a child as far as they can go without them shutting down, and that they'll still stay engaged with me during a session. And so there's
Mhm.
a little finesse there. So because I'm, you know, I'm really passionate. I'm like, I want to get this child here, but then I know I need to do it to where the child can process and they're still enjoying the sessions because that's huge.
Right, right, right. You're very good at that. Very, very good. I can hear on some of the calls because sometimes I'm working and I'm not paying a whole lot of attention, but sometimes I am, sitting in my office so I can hear more of the conversation. And I hear them getting to a point where it's like, okay, this is going to go either way here, because as the mom, I know when my child's about to lose it. And right to the brink, and then you pull them back with a fun game, or you pull their attention back, or you get them engaged with you again. And so, but it's so good because it's just like with weightlifting,
Oh, okay.
you have to get to that point of like you're burning that muscle before, otherwise it's not going to do any good. So it's the
Right.
same thing. So I know it's kind of painful sometimes to watch as a mom. You're like, oh, you know but then other times like, no, it has to be done, shut up, Amanda, be quiet. But at the same time, I love how you bring them back to you and they are so comfortable with you. They can feel that vulnerability, and but yet they still feel safe with you, and they still feel very happy working with you, and they love playing that game at the end. They love
Yeah.
that, time with you and showing. My boys want to show her everything. I'm like, no, you cannot be on here. This is not like a conversation. Like they want to show her every little thing. So I have to
Oh,
reel them
so
back in
sweet.
sometimes. But Dawn is so patient. She's so good, and she's very thorough. And my boys are, the youngest one was not even reading when we started. He didn't even know the sounds very
Mhm.
well when we first started with Mrs. B. And now, and this is the little one right here, and he's reading now. So he's doing very, very well. Okay, go play, honey. We're still recording. Okay. Bye. I know you're hungry. We're almost done. Okay.
Oh, so
So
cute.
who is a good candidate, would you say, for your tutoring sessions?
Anyone that feels that their child is an early reader, that the parents want some help, a struggling reader, and that's any age, from a young child all the way to late teens. Yeah, and I have all. So any child that falls anywhere in that range, I'm happy to help. And not just with the phonetics, but also there's some children that need some more help with the comprehension. So the age doesn't matter. It's just a matter if you feel like it's a struggle or you feel like your child needs some help and they have some shortcomings. I'm happy to help in that area, no matter the age of the child.
That is perfect. That is perfect. What is the most rewarding aspect of your job?
Oh, just what you're saying, sharing with me today. I do what I do because I love helping families and what you share and how you tell me how I'm helping your boys and how it touched you and your family. That gives me the fire to just keep going. That's what keeps what keeps me want to continue to help and help other families. So I just love that. I love knowing I made an impact because reading is going to affect a child's entire life, because
Absolutely.
it's going to affect their job. It's going to affect how they interact with others, how they are able just to. Right now, we live in this digital age where we're getting all this information, how to use our, critical thinking skills to analyze, hey, what's accurate, what's not, and being that critical thinker. So It's just life changing. I'm glad I can contribute that. I've had families come to me, in situations similar. Some of the children are in public school have come to me where the child didn't even want to go to school, and now they're reading, and the child enjoys school and they're happy. Or other children I've had where they went through lots of process with IEPs, different tutors, trying different methods. They're older. We connected, and now the child's reading. And when I hear that and those testimonies and those parents, because of course I'm empathetic to the parent because I have 5 kids. So when I teach a child, I think about the parent too, because, I know what the child's going through. It's not just the child feeling insecure that they're a struggling reader, but I know the parents also feeling the impact of that too, because we want what's best for our children. And
Right.
so to help families and to know that, I can change that path of that child in that more positive way, and to change the whole dynamic of that family. That's what I'm here for, and that's what my passion is. And I'm so happy that, you know, however God, gave me these gifts and our talents, we were supposed to put them to use. And I'm grateful now that I have the opportunity to put what I feel like these special abilities I have to work with children, because I love children, it's something that I love doing. When I get up and I get to work with the child and impact that family, I look forward to when I get up in the morning. I look at who I'm tutoring, and I can't wait to meet them. Know how are you feeling today, and how are you making out, and how's your reading going, and let's get to this new part. So, I love the families and the children, and tutoring is so special because it makes me emotional talking about it. Because I get to work one on one with that child, and I get to work with them, several times a week. So I get to know that child and their progress, and I feel like I connect with that child, and just to hear their wins. And that's something, when you're a teacher, you're limited because you have a lot of kids in a class. And even though I've always been passionate about all my children in the class, when I have that one on one, you're really building that special connection with the family and child. And so it's really, it's just you feel like you're making a big impact, and I'm so grateful that I have this time in my life right now that I'm able to do that.
Yes, you are such a blessing, and that's so beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that. And you're definitely making a big impact. I mean, you're helping my children in a way that I could not. And I'm just so thankful for that. And not only are you helping my children, I mean, you're helping me. You're helping me to be
Oh,
happier because I was struggling with this homeschooling thing so much. And now having you on our team is like my children are happier. I'm happier. I'm not as stressed. And I can do more around the house that I need to do without having to worry, what my child is getting into when I'm doing it, because they're actually in a tutoring session. So it's really
yeah.
actually helping our entire family. And you know like I said, you just have a special bond with my children. Like you were saying, you get to know them. You develop this relationship or friendship with them, and it's so cute. I mean, they absolutely love working with
Oh,
you. And we're just so very grateful, so grateful.
thank you.
So how can people reach you?
Yeah, so you can reach me at 480-737. Oh my gosh, I'm losing it here. 1827. I hope I have that all right. I don't know why I've had so many phone numbers, but anyway, if that didn't work, just contact me at sunrisereadingaz@gmail.com. I know you're gonna have my information below. And then you can also on Facebook just, message me. And I have a website, Sunrise Reading, um, az.com, also sunrisereadingtutoring.com. So I have 2 domains. And so please reach out there. You can connect with me on there as well, and you can learn even more about me. And then I wanted to share too that at this time I'm doing a free evaluation. Typically I charge $60 for the evaluation, but at this time, and if you're listening to this podcast, watching this, or on YouTube, I would like to offer this to families because I want to help as many families as possible. And I'd be happy to give you an assessment. Or if you're just wondering, does my child really need anything? That's fine too. Just reach out to me. I'd be happy to meet with your child. And also, I'd be happy to talk with you too of any concerns you have for your child as well. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Dawn, for being here. Yes, we will definitely have all of your information down in the description of this video. The other thing I want to mention is if you're in the state of Arizona, Dawn is actually a vendor with ESA. and tutoring is actually a covered expense under your ESA account. So she is a vendor. You can look her up on there, and she makes it really easy for me. She sends me a monthly invoice. I ship that right over on the ESA website, and Class Wallet takes care of it, and boom, we're all happy. So it's really amazing working with Dawn. She makes it really super easy. Like I said, my boys love her. I love her. She has
Oh,
just made a huge impact for our family. And I know she will be able to help yours too. She'll be able to help your children, improve their reading, and you'll be happier knowing your children are happier too. So thank you so much, Dawn, for being here. I really appreciate you and taking this time to visit with me on the podcast today and being our first guest. Thank you so much. What an honor for
oh.
being here. Thank you.
I feel honored for being the first guest, and thank you. I appreciate you taking this time and meeting with me and letting me share what I'm doing. And thank you so much, Amanda. I appreciate it. And I love your boys. I love your family. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.